Sandstorm. Sandstorm, the quirk of the sand hero Snatch. It first appeared in episode 77 of the anime during the Shi Hasai Kai arc. Sandstorm is an emitter-type quirk that allows Snatch to transform his entire upper body into sand while keeping his lower body in a normal physical form. In this state, he can generate a large amount of sand and freely manipulate it. In the anime, we only see a single offensive move, in which Snatch gathers sand into the shape of a lion and charges straight at Dabi. Unfortunately, that was also the first and last time he ever showcased his power. What makes Sandstorm truly special and full of potential is not only because Snatch is the first sand-based quirk user introduced in the series, but also because Sandstorm is one of the very few quirks that can naturally counter Shigaraki's Decay. When Snatch's body splits into countless sand particles, Shigaraki cannot use all 5 fingers to activate Decay. Furthermore, the parts of Snatch's body that have turned into sand possess extremely high heat resistance, as Dabi's blue flames are completely unable to burn them. The moment we realized Sandstorm could nullify Decay was genuinely exciting because since the beginning of the series, Decay has been presented as an ability with virtually no clear countermeasure. Yet, as soon as a character with a quirk capable of countering the main antagonist is introduced, he is immediately removed from the story within just a few frames. Frankly speaking, this is a massive waste. We never got to see Sandstorm in actual combat beyond forming a sand lion, which naturally makes viewers wonder whether Horikoshi should have taken a bit of inspiration from Gaara in Naruto, because if Sandstorm had been properly developed, similar to how Gaara was explored, Snatch could have become a powerful and important hero in the war arc, as he would have been a direct hard counter to Shigaraki. Therefore, Sandstorm definitely belongs among the most wasted quirks in the series, an ability with insane potential that never had a chance to shine. Earth Flow. Earth Flow, the quirk of the pro hero Pixie Bob. This ability first appeared during the Forest Training Camp arc in Season 3, and if its full potential were ever utilized, no one could deny that this is one of the strongest terrain control quirks. In fact, Earth Flow is so powerful that Horikoshi had to write her being ambushed and taken down almost immediately before she could activate her quirk to counter the villains. This shows that he was fully aware of how dangerous this ability is and intentionally removed it from the board as early as possible. Earth Flow allows the user to control all soil and rock in the vicinity as long as there is direct contact. Pixie Bob can collapse terrain, create landslide-like flows at will, and even shape earth and stone into monsters to fight from a distance. Although these creatures look intimidating, Class 1A still dealt with them fairly quickly, and even Mineta's sticky balls contributed. However, the ability to create monsters is only the surface level. The true power of Earth Flow lies in Pixie Bob's capacity to shape the ground into anything she wants. Theoretically, Pixie Bob could manipulate the terrain in a way similar to Overhaul. She could raise countless sharp earth spikes and alter the entire battlefield with a single touch. That is why she was taken down so quickly when the villains attacked. If she had had enough time to react, she could have torn open the ground and buried her opponents alive, or even sent the ground beneath their feet shooting into the sky like this. Another unfortunate point is that we never got to see Earth Flow combined with Juzo Hononuki's Softening. This combination would have been more than capable of controlling the entire battlefield. Softening could melt the ground right under the enemy, and Earth Flow would instantly shape that softened ground into sharp spikes to deal damage. If this scenario had ever happened, it would undoubtedly have become the most dangerous terrain-based combo in the entire series. Vibrate. Vibrate, the quirk of Yoshindo. From the very first time he appeared, Shindo already displayed clear leadership qualities and an extremely competitive spirit, so it was no surprise at all that he later made it into the top 20 pro heroes. True to its name, Vibrate allows Shindo to generate vibrations on anything he touches. During the Provisional Hero License exam, we saw him use Vibrate to create actual mini earthquakes with just a single touch to the ground. Shindo shattered the entire area in front of him, causing Class 1A tremendous difficulty in keeping their balance and maintaining formation. The vibrations were so strong that Todoroki, who was on the opposite side of the map, could also feel the ground shaking. We can clearly see how terrifying the vibration force of Vibrate is simply by observing its impact on the terrain, and if such a level of vibration were directed straight into a human body instead of the ground, the outcome would almost certainly be disastrous. The entire internal structure of the body would shake from within, and the opponent could literally explode like an overpressured water balloon. Of course, this quirk also has a drawback after each use. Shindo has to endure the residual tremors, causing his body to shake as well. However, this unintentionally trains him to withstand vibrations at an exceptional level, which is why he could still stand up even after taking a direct attack from Gang Orca. It is truly unfortunate that Vibrate still has enormous potential for development that we never get to witness. If Shindo were able to awaken his quirk, he could completely enhance the range and intensity of his vibrations to an extreme level. The real limit would be pushed even further if Shindo learned how to transmit vibrations through the air instead of only through physical contact. At that point, it would not be an exaggeration to call Shindo a school version Whitebeard. Everyone already knows how devastating Whitebeard's power is, so if Shindo could reach even half of that level, he could absolutely become one of the strongest heroes of the new generation. Twin Impact. Twin Impact, the quirk of Nirengeki Shota, the Class 1B vice representative and intern hero under the name Mines, is one of the most underrated quirks despite having some of the most dangerous potential in the entire class. His ability allows him to create a second, stronger impact on any target he has previously touched. The most frightening part is that this second strike can be activated at any moment, even if the first hit happened a long time ago. Many fans usually overlook this, but imagine a realistic scenario. If the opponent does not understand how Twin Impact works, becomes careless, or completely drops their guard, Nirengeki can trigger the second hit at the exact moment they are unprepared. This is precisely how Monoma Nato once used Twin Impact on Deku. And just imagine All For One obtaining this quirk, everything would become a catastrophe. In the battle at Kamino Ward, All For One also possessed a quirk with a double impact mechanism similar to Twin Impact, which was Impact Recoil. This ability allowed him to reverse the force of any physical attack he received. When All Might used Detroit Smash, All For One warped Gran Torino to take the blow instead, then activated Impact Recoil to send the entire force back at All Might, turning All Might's own attack into a weapon against him. Now imagine these two quirks combined. A Detroit Smash is already overwhelming, but if its reversed force from Impact Recoil were then further duplicated by a Twin Impact Strike, the resulting force would reach an unimaginable level. In that situation, All Might likely would have lost instantly, and if All For One patiently waited until All Might's transformation time limit ran out, and only then activated the second hit of Twin Impact, All Might not even have had any chance of survival. For that reason, even though Twin Impact appears very little, it possesses an enormous amount of potential. The user can even deliberately refrain from activating the second impact, immediately forcing the victim to constantly live in a state of tension and fear because they have no idea when the next strike will occur. This alone is enough to show just how dangerous Twin Impact truly is. Size. Size, the quirk of Yui Kodai, the heroine known as Rule, famous for her expressionless face and extremely quiet personality. Her quirk is called Size, an ability that may look gentle at first glance, but actually hides dangerous potential if used properly. As long as she touches an object, Yui can shrink or enlarge it at will. The most notable thing about this quirk is the ambiguity surrounding its upper limit. Until now, we still do not know how large Yui can enlarge an object or how long she can maintain that altered size. This uncertainty regarding Size's limits opens countless possibilities that are both interesting and frightening, which we have never seen. Imagine Yui shrinking a car and throwing it into a villain's mouth, then instantly enlarging it again. The result would almost certainly be a devastating internal explosion, a brutal finishing move. Or another scenario, Yui standing at high ground, enlarging a small rock into a massive boulder and dropping it down. Even if the scale does not reach Madara's meteor level, just half of that destructive power would be enough to wipe out an entire area, and if she could enlarge multiple rocks at the same time, that situation would definitely become a real catastrophe. Precisely because there is no clear answer to this quirk's limits, Size becomes one of the most potential-rich abilities, yet one of the least explored in My Hero Academia. If Yui had more opportunities to showcase it, her power could be completely different from what we have seen so far. Landmine. Landmine, the quirk of Chitose Kizuki, also known by the codename Curious. This emitter-type ability first appeared in Chapter 224 and allows her to turn anything into a bomb with just a single touch. Individual explosions are not very strong, but when their number increases, the accumulated damage becomes extremely dangerous. For Curious, the value of Landmine lies in quantity rather than the power of each explosion. She frequently creates explosive traps by touching multiple objects and then detonating all of them at will when she sees the right opportunity. She can even turn people into mobile naval mines. To maximize close-range combat capability, Curious equips herself with the Curious Flattener, a support item that allows her to use naval mines at close distances. Thanks to this device, if her fist connects during hand-to-hand combat, she can generate a small but powerful explosion on impact. Although Curious had very little screen time, what we did see was enough to prove that the Landmine quirk is extremely potential, yet still underutilized. Imagine if Curious had the opportunity to develop her quirk to a higher level, not limited to touching large objects for detonation. She could reach a microscopic level of control, allowing her to touch even floating dust particles and turn them into countless tiny mines. This ability would create a perfect death zone around her, turning the battlefield into a large-scale, lethal, explosive trap. This potential creates an interesting parallel with Bakugo's explosion quirk. If Bakugo uses sweat containing nitroglycerin from his body to create explosions, Curious has the ability to turn the surrounding environment such as dust, soil, or small objects into potential explosives that will detonate at her will. If that ever happened, a battle between these two characters would be highly anticipated. Black Hole. Black Hole, the quirk of 13. This is an emitter-type ability that allows her to create small black holes from her fingertips and suck everything into them. Any object that gets pulled in is completely disintegrated. With a mechanism like that, Black Hole certainly belongs among the most dangerous and most powerful quirks in the entire series. It is so powerful that we almost never see it being used in its full capacity. Precisely because of its overwhelming destructive potential, 13 is assigned the role of a rescue-type hero. If she were to appear on the front lines, even a small mistake could injure or kill her own teammates. A hero cannot take such risks, and that is exactly why 13 is forced to stay in the back despite possessing one of the most destructive quirks. What is unfortunate is that whenever 13 actually takes action, she is usually neutralized within moments. In USJ, she was stopped by Kurogiri almost immediately, and in the War arc when she was using Black Hole, the manga cut away and only returned many chapters later when we saw her already severely injured, without knowing what had happened in between. Throughout the entire series, 13 rarely has the opportunity to use Black Hole in any creative way. Even in the role of rescue, the author does not explore the potential applications of this quirk in depth. Instead, what we usually see is simply 13 standing in place and sucking things in with her Black Hole, an image repeated over and over without showing the full extent of the quirk's power. This is clearly a quirk with an excellent concept, but one that has been utilized far too superficially. 13 could have become a character with a very significant role if this quirk had been unlocked properly. Compress. Compress, the quirk of Mr. Compress, a core member of the League of Villains. Compress allows him to shrink anything into a marble regardless of whether it is a living person, a living body part, someone near death, or simply cars and other objects. All of this is done with just a single touch. What is remarkable is that Mr. Compress is a character who appeared very early accompanying the League from the beginning, yet he has always been treated as a minor supporting role. However, when looking at his quirk, you have to admit that Horikoshi created an ability that is both unique and dangerous, but simply never used to its real potential. In a direct battle, Compress may not seem as strong as conventional offensive quirks, but in the context of the League being a villain group operating in the shadows, his ability should have been considered a trump card, such as shrinking Nomu for secret transport, compressing massive weapons into pocket size, or even capturing heroes with a single touch and carrying them away like marbles. The reduced weight of objects after being compressed also makes transporting or hiding dangerous items extremely convenient. However, the story unfolded differently. Mr. Compress seemed to use this quirk mainly for support or escape purposes. The rare moment when Mr. Compress made a strong impression was when he kidnapped Bakugo during the Pussycats training camp. After that scene, many fans believed he would become a major chaos factor in later battles, but instead, Mr. Compress was gradually pushed out of the spotlight and fell into obscurity aside from having a very stylish character design. It is truly unfortunate that a quirk capable of shrinking everything into a marble was only used for side tasks. Compress, therefore, becomes a prime example of a powerful ability that was never utilized to its full potential in My Hero Academia. Outburst. Outburst, the quirk of Miss Joke, whose real name is Emi Fukukato, is a quirk often underestimated simply because of her cheerful personality and upbeat energy. However, if Horikoshi seriously explored it, this could be one of the most terrifying psychological control abilities in all of My Hero Academia. Outburst forces opponents into an uncontrollable laughing state, causing them to lose concentration and become completely unable to counterattack. This may sound humorous, but in a world where every battle revolves around focus and judgment, making your opponent laugh to the point of helplessness is a subtle yet extremely effective finishing move. Unfortunately, we have never actually seen Miss Joke in real combat. Everything we know is described through a few Pokédex-style lines from Midoriya without any serious action moment. However, we can partially evaluate how dangerous Outburst can be by looking at the villain Mr. Smiley. This character only needs someone to see his teeth to make them burst out laughing and become instantly paralyzed. And Mr. Smiley once caused Deku, Bakugo, Todoroki, and even Endeavor to lose control for a moment. This shows that a forced laughter type ability can turn a battle into chaos within seconds. Because of that, it is unfortunate that Miss Joke is constantly reduced to a comedic role, mainly appearing to tease Aizawa rather than actually fighting. In reality, she could play an extremely important tactical role. Imagine Outburst combined with Aizawa's erasure. While she disables the mind, he disables the quirk. With just this duo, an entire group of villains could be neutralized without direct violence. Even a terrifying opponent like Shigaraki would lose his advantage if his mind were disrupted by forced laughter. This shows that Outburst possesses enormous potential but has never been properly developed. If Miss Joke were given a serious chance to perform, she could absolutely become a strategic asset instead of appearing merely as a comedic, school-setting character. Iceply. Iceply, the quirk of Geten, is one of the strongest ice-type quirks ever shown. As a core member of the Paranormal Liberation Front, Geten possesses the ability to control any amount of ice within his surrounding area, with a range so large it can cover an entire town. He not only gathers and moves ice at will, but can also use it for offense, defense, or to completely reshape the terrain in an instant. What is even more incredible is that Geten once achieved an awakening state that allows him to manipulate the temperature of water molecules. Because of this, he can freeze any source of water within range, turning the entire environment into an endless supply of material to produce ice. This is a level of elemental mastery that even well-known ice-type users like Todoroki have never reached. If Todoroki creates too much ice, he ends up freezing himself, while Geten can blanket an entire town with ice without showing any negative effect. However, in the story, Geten appears only as a background villain. This is truly unfortunate because what he has demonstrated is already enough to prove he is a literal weapon of mass destruction. In an urban or coastal environment, Geten could erect massive ice walls to divide the battlefield, submerge buildings under thick layers of ice, or exhaust opponents by manipulating the surrounding temperature. Judging purely by elemental manipulation, Geten surpasses many more important characters in the series, and if the anime had given him more screen time today, we would probably be talking about one of the strongest monsters of the Liberation Front rather than a wasted character who appeared briefly and disappeared. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos.